Copeland, if you could state your name for the record.
Carlton Copeland.
And where do you live, Mr. Copeland? What's your current address?
It's Atlanta, Georgia. The full address is
Thank you. And how do you know the respondent, Craig Stewart?
we dated for 2.5 years.
Okay, what's your current relationship with Mr. Stewart?
Current, as of right now, we are, I would guess you consider us exes.
Okay. And you said you dated for how long?
2.5 years.
And did you guys live together at any point?
No,
Did you share any property or any children?
no.
And when did you all separate?
The official date would have been November 27th.
Okay. And could you explain, I guess, the details of that separation, or better yet, the most recent incident that prompted you to file this petition for protection?
Yes. So I guess starting back at the very beginning, it was the night of the 27th. Craig
What month?
hosted November.
What school date? Okay.
November 27th, 2022.
Thank you.
Craig hosted a bonfire that included myself and some friends and family. It was about 10 o'clock that evening where I decided to go inside of his home to grab something to eat. And I guess apparently I left my phone behind outside at the bonfire. It was during this time that Craig then accessed my phone, and my assumption is that he put in keywords to look for whatever he was looking for. And in that search, he found several things. He found text messages going back to around the time we first started dating. So in addition to finding, so he found graphic messages along with photos and video footage from an affair that happened while I was working in Pittsburgh, which he was aware of prior to this incident that happened on November 27th. From there, I did not know about the discovery at this time. Even when I went back to the bonfire, was not aware of this. The night continued, and then it was decided amongst myself and friends and Craig that we'll be coming back to my house. I live probably a mile or less from him. And we both have our own separate single family homes. And so we arrived, we all drove separately to my house that included myself, Craig, Craig's friend Jack, and my friend Portia. And my grandmother was here at my house already because she was staying over from Thanksgiving.
So there were 5 people present.
That is correct. It is during this time where we're all in my home and we enter my dining room. We're sitting around talking, chatting at the table. And it's during that time that Craig turned to me and says, "I know what the fuck you've been doing." At that time, I'm unaware exactly of what he's talking about. And I don't necessarily give a full-on response to his answer because, again, we have guests around at the table and in the home.
And when he said this around everyone, or was it just you and him at that point? Did he freeze?
Craig then, from there, I agreed to this. So we go upstairs and we sit on my bed on the left-hand side of the bed. Craig's back faced my headboard while I faced Craig facing the headboard. This is where then he starts questioning me. And one of the first things I believe he said was that, I found out you've been cheating me on this entire time. And my first response was, no, not the entire time, because the incident in which I did have the affair again happened last year in Pittsburgh. He then goes to question me about a specific person where he found messages between him and I, someone named Alan. He questions me of who is Alan, and then I'm not able to respond to that before he says, if I have HIV, I will kill you. From there, at the time, kind of, I noticed things are starting to escalate. And my fear at the time was showing any sign of weakness. So I then rebutted back and, was started to say, well, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and kill me. And as soon as I said that, Craig decided to slap me across my face. But from that moment, I don't strike back. A hand was not instantly lifted. The conversation continues. I was hit again so at the time I had a drink in my hand from the evening. So I ended up at this point in defense, I throw the drink at Craig. And at this point, things became blurry because he started to attack me. And the next thing I know, I was in a leg lock on the ground next to the bed, which would have been still the left-hand side of the bed.
Okay, and just pause there. So you stated that he slapped you and hit you again. When you say he hit you, what do you mean?
Slap across the face.
Okay, the same slap. Okay. And then you ended up on the floor in a leg lock.
Correct.
Okay, so, and you may not be able to assess this, but from the time that you were slapped to the point that you ended up on the floor in the leg lock, how much time had passed?
Oh, it probably would have been less than 60 seconds.
Okay.
And then I don't know if I'll wait. I don't know if you want me to continue or not. Sorry.
No, you can keep going. Go ahead.
And so while I was in that leg lock, I start feeling a whole lot of pain from my head. And not being aware what was happening, but to find out he was actually pulling out my hair. And so from what I could see I was in legs distance of my bedroom door. I have double doors that come into my bedroom. And so in order to, I guess, start saving myself, I started kicking the door to allow everyone downstairs to know that I needed help. And I started calling for help and for someone to call the police. And so I continued to keep kicking the door.
Thank you, froze again. Go on. All right, you may proceed.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Once everyone arrived upstairs, that would be everyone except for my grandmother, because she's a little feeble, so she was not able to make it up the stairs as fast as everyone else. Upon everyone's arrival, I do remember Craig saying, while I was still in the leg lock, that I'm about to kill this nigga. From there, the fight was broken up once everyone came upstairs. Then once that happened, Craig proceeds downstairs while Jack, my grandmother, who's now upstairs, and Portia are in front of the steps. During this time, I try to gather myself, but for whatever crazy reason, I felt that there was a chance to still talk through what was going on, because again, at this point, nothing had been explained about the text messages and what Craig found. So I tried to rush downstairs. I don't know if he's still in the house or not, but I tried to get downstairs to see if somehow this could be rectified. So they would not let me go. So at that time, just out of desperation, I have a short railing that's on the other side, on the right-hand side of my stairs. So I go over the railing and down the stairs. Once I get downstairs, Craig is still in my kitchenette, and he turns to look at me and says, excuse my language, what the fuck are you about to do? I don't attack him. I don't raise a hand to him. And it was then that he picks up, I had a Dyson vacuum cleaner downstairs. And from there, he then attacks me and beats me with the vacuum cleaner.
Okay, and when you say he beat you with the vacuum cleaner, like what part of your body?
What part of my body? To be honest, I don't know. It was directly at me, and I do know once it started hitting me and the walls, because there was damage on the walls, it started breaking. And at some point, I did grab one of those pieces in self-defense and started fighting back. And from there, things got slightly blurry. I did have a gash in my head. I can't recall if that was from him pulling out my hair or from the vacuum cleaner. But at some point, he did grab me by the hair and started dragging me across the kitchen floor, the kitchenette floor in front of the steps. And then that's where Jack and Portia broke us up yet again. And then Craig exits the house. And that's the last time I've seen him or that we saw each other.
Okay. And I'm going to, can I show you some pictures? If I can pull them up.
So the way we normally do it is the clerk will pull them up, if you can call them out.
I'm trying to, I was just recently retained, Your Honor. So I didn't submit them myself. Mr. Copeland submitted them, so I have to just match what he submitted.
Yes, because he did it in alphabetical order, starting with the letter A.
He did, so I just need to see where he started. But if you could bring up D.
That's D as in David.
D as in David, I'm sorry, yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And Mr. Copeland, do you recognize this picture?
Yes,
Do you know who took this picture?
I took the picture.
Okay. And is this an accurate reflection of what your head looked like immediately after this incident?
That is correct. That it was within the first 30 minutes or so after the fight.
All right, and how did the court come into possession of this picture?
I sent this picture.
And if clerk could, if you could bring up Ms. Broom.
Hold on, let me ask this. Are you tendering this into evidence?
Yes, I'm sorry, but I'd like to admit that.
Okay, any objection from Ms. Davis Madden?
No objection.
All right, it's submitted without objection.
As D, I believe.
All right, this one was D, I think.
D as in dog.
I think that's what this one was.
Ms. Broom, if you could bring up F as in Frank. And Mr. Copeland, do you recognize this picture?
Yes,
Did you take this one as well?
I did.
Has that been altered or is it an accurate reflection?
It's an accurate reflection.
Was it showing us?
It is showing us, you'll see like the scratches. There's like 3 scratches in a row and 2 scratches above.
And when was this picture taken?
The next morning.
Your Honor, I'd like to admit this as well.
No objection.
All right, thank you. It's submitted without objection.
And Ms. Broom, if you could bring up E as in Edward. And Mr. Copeland, do you recognize this picture?
Yes.
And has this been altered at all?
No.
Do you recall when this picture was taken?
The next day, this is when I went to Piedmont Urgent Care.
Okay, and tell us what's going on in this picture.
My toe was fractured here, so you'll see the swelling and the bruising.
All right, before he talks about the contents, are you tendering this into evidence?
I am, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No
If you
problem.
could-
Any
this is,
objection?
Judge, I don't know that she's laid the proper foundation. If she does, then I'll have no objection.
Okay.
Mr. Copeland, who took this picture?
I took this picture as well.
Where was it taken at?
Piedmont Urgent Care.
And you said when was it taken?
This was the following day.
All right. Is it an accurate reflection of your foot at the time?
Yes.
Has it been altered at all in any way?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, I would submit this to be admitted.
Any objection?
No objection. No,
All right,
Your
thank
Honor.
you. It's admitted without objection.
And Mr. Copeland, you said what was going on in this picture?
The doctor discovered upon x-rays that I suffered from a fractured toe, big toe.
And to the best of your ability, where do you think that fracture came from?
I believe this is when I was kicking the door many times to alert everyone downstairs. And this is when I was in the leg lock.
Okay. And Ms. Plum, if you could bring up A as an alpha. Mr. Copeland, do you recognize this picture?
Yes,
Do you know where this picture came from
yes,
and how the court came into possession of this picture?
I sent this picture,
And what's this a picture of?
my fractured big toe.
Your Honor, we will move to admit this. I believe this is A.
All right, any objection?
No objection, Judge.
All right, it's admitted without objection.
And Mr. Copeland, what did the doctor determine about your foot?
That, as you can see there, and sorry, I don't know the technical terms for the bones here, but you can see in that middle part of my big toe, the fracture carries from the bottom diagonally up from the bottom right up to the top left of the bone.
Okay, and what was the treatment following this appointment? What did they do?
I was put in a boot that came up like maybe about 6 inches below my knee, if around there, as well as put on crutches.
Okay, how long were
and-
you put in the boot?
For 30 days.
And how long were you on the crutches?
For 30 days.
Okay,
Give and take, some days I try to not use the crutches.
understood. All right, so let's go back to the day of the event. About what time do you think that fight occurred?
I would say between 10:30 and 11.
And about what time do you think it ended?
Probably somewhere after 11, like 11:15 maybe.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Do you recall when Mr. Stewart left your home?
Time-wise, it would have been around that time it would have been the same time that the fight ended. He left the house. He actually waited outside. He asked my friend Portia for his belongings outside of my home. And that's when I actually went around the entire house and gathered all of his belongings and put them outside. By this point, he had left. And so my friend Portia ended up going to his house to deliver his belongings.
Okay, were the police called?
Yes,
And who called the police?
I called the police.
Why'd you call the police?
Because I actually feared, during that time, I feared for my life. And I was just attacked in a brutal way. That's what I would call in a very brutal way. And so I didn't feel safe, especially with him only living less than a mile away.
Okay, when the police arrived, was Mr. Stewart there?
No, he was not.
Who was there with you?
During that time, my grandmother was there and my friend Portia.
Okay, was a report prepared?
You said a report?
Yes, a police report?
Yes.
Okay,
And then once they got the report, that's when I gave them Craig's address, and then they proceeded to Craig's residence. And then they came back after,
why did they come back after?
because from what they told me, he refused to come outside to speak to them.
Okay. So after the report was drawn and the police had left, what, if any, did you have with Mr. Stewart?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part. You said, what did I do what with Mr. Stewart?
Did you have any further contact with Mr. Stewart after the police were gone?
No,
Okay. Did anyone around you have any further contact with Mr. Stewart after police were gone?
If anybody did, it was Portia, because she did arrive to his house to drop off his belongings. And I'm not sure if they continued to text message or phone calls after that.
Okay. And are you privy to any communications between Mr. Stewart and any of your friends and family at that point?
Not at that point. It wasn't until the next day.
And what happened the next day?
The next day and for the next week, actually, Craig, when he went through my phone, he sent himself the video and took pictures of the text messages and other photos from my phone. And he then sent them out to all of my friends and family.
And when you say all of your friends and family, about how many people?
At minimum 10.
And were these text messages blacked out, redacted in any way, shape, or form?
No, they varied from person to person. Majority of them were the same, where it was mostly the text that he sent. And some people did receive the photos of me exposed, as well as the video that included me, that also had me exposed.
And when you say exposed, do you mean nude?
Nude and having intercourse.
Ms. Broom, if we could bring up K as in kilo, sorry. Mr. Copeland, do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Do you know who took this photo?
Yes.
Who took it?
We have, now it's a mutual friend, my friend Leonard.
And how did you come into possession of this photo?
He screenshotted this and sent me proof that, or evidence that he said that he beat me the previous night.
And when did that happen?
Which
was
part
this,
happened?
When was this text sent to you? When was this photo sent to you?
I would say a couple weeks after the incident.
Okay. We would like to submit this, let me see, into evidence, Your Honor. I forgot what letter it was. K as in kilo?
Yeah, this is petitioner exhibit K. Ms. Davis Madden.
I would object to this, Judge. I'm not quite sure if this is a screenshot of a message that was sent to, I'm still not clear exactly how he got this. I mean, we don't know that it's been altered. This is a message that was sent to him from someone else's phone. So I would object to this being tendered into evidence. It's not the best evidence. And then we don't have any way to know if it was altered or changed in any way. I'm, again, not even quite sure it was made clear exactly how he received this. It seems like it's a screenshot he received from someone else. So I would object.
All right, Miss Johnson Alford, your response?
Even if it's not admitted, he can still testify to the conversation he was a party to about the text message.
Okay, so I'm gonna sustain the objection as, are you raising, what is your specific objection to the screenshot?
Judge, it's
He did,
hearsay.
let me say, he did testify that this is a screenshot he took of his phone that he received from someone. He testified this is a screenshot of his phone of a screenshot that someone else sent to him. So what is your specific objection to?
My objection is hearsay, Judge. It is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Whether or not my client actually sent this, if that was accurate, if it was altered or deleted in any way, they seem to be introducing it for that purpose. So I would make an objection based on hearsay.
Okay, I'm going to sustain the objection as he was not the initial receiver of it, of the initial conversation. So it does seem to be a screenshot of a conversation between two different people. So at this time, I'm going to sustain that objection. You
Your
may,
Honor, if I
yeah,
could
go ahead. Mhm.
I mean, we do have one purported party to this conversation here available. So if he is able to testify to the veracity of this text message, would you allow that as well? If
You can offer it again at that time.
okay, thank you. So, Mr. Copeland, you said you had knowledge or you had conversations with your friends who admitted that they had received these racy photos and videos of you,
Correct.
and they had gotten them from who?
Correct.
Okay. And you said your friends and your family.
Correct. Multiple friends, family members included my father, my little sister, my mother, my friends included one of my best friends from college, at least. And then these are people that live all over the United States. So I don't know if you want me to go down the full list of people, but.
No, you don't need the full list. Okay, and how has that affected you at this point?
Affected me, it's definitely affected me emotionally, just because I do get why he sent it out, but I'm not exactly sure why my private life has to do anything with my family. And so I've, been struggling with that a lot. Of course, there's embarrassment, especially when your little sister is reading graphic messages, that obviously any graphic text message between anybody, everyone does it. It's a private thing. So I'm working on that, getting through that. But yeah, it definitely has affected me emotionally.
Okay.
And it's also, I've lost friendships because of it as well.
Okay. And since these events, have you been contacted by anyone about Mr. Stewart?
About Mr. Stewart in regards to
any of the fallout from this event?
I've gotten like immediate response, the immediate response after the messages went out, the information, spread like wildfire. So I then began to receive a lot of phone calls from family and from friends, just inquiring of what's going on and trying to hear my side of it, to check on me. So that's how I started getting initial contacts from others.
Okay. When you say it spread like wildfire, how did it spread?
Just rumors, gossip.
Was social media at play at all?
Social media at that time was not in play. That was introduced a little, like not too far after that, after the series of text messages, and it actually might have overlapped at some point.
How was that introduced?
Through social media, Craig posted a video about our breakup. It wasn't necessarily saying, the initial video did not state the details of what happened. It was a very genuine, what seemed to be genuine video about our breakup and the beautiful time we had and during that 2.5 years. So that was the initial video. So it was a very sympathetic, emotional video. And then from there, the mood shifted, but that was the first one.
Okay. And from that, have you been contacted on social media at all?
Throughout this entire process, yes. I have been trolled. I have received anonymous texts, emails that also included my mother, and people going through my comments and sending me DMs.
And what are they saying in these DMs and these messages, if you could paraphrase?
It's a mix. Some have said that, oh, we're sorry to hear what happened. We wished that, maybe there's a chance for you guys to get back together. Some have been nasty, saying that I'm nothing but a cum dump, and that I go to bathhouses and sex parties. So from that and all, from those two things and everything in between, that's I would say the lesser side of it to the extreme side.
Okay. Ms. Broom, if we could bring up H.
You say H as in Henry?
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Copeland, do you see this picture?
Yes.
Do you recognize this picture?
Yes.
Where's it from?
Instagram. This
Did
is
you-
I have two Instagram accounts. This is my business page that I have. I own a business.
And who took this picture?
I took this picture.
All right, we'd like to admit this or submit it for evidence, Your Honor. This is H as in Henry.
No objection, Judge.
And can you tell us what's going on in this picture? Oh, I'm sorry. Your Honor, were you admitting that?
Sorry about that. I'm trying to keep down any background noise. Yes, it's admitted without objection.
Thank you. Can you tell us what's going on in this picture?
Yes. So recently, I was pulled over and I was charged. Well, I guess I was not necessarily charged yet, but with a DUI because I did not come to a complete stop at a red light nor use my blinker. And so I was pulled over. And so therefore I ended up going to jail that night because they charged me with a DUI. And so not too long after that, this is literally the same day, I got this message, which I don't know how this person received this information so quickly. But yeah, this was left on my business, Carlton Lee Studios, Instagram page.
Okay.
Amongst a lot of other messages, but some got blocked and some were deleted without screenshotting.
Okay. It is kind of inappropriate, Your Honor, so I don't want to ask that he read it out loud. Do you want to try to redact it to the best of your ability, Mr. Copeland?
Oh, just reading it, what it says here?
Yes.
Sure. It says, does Craig know about your DUI? Where were you going drunk on Sunday at around 7-ish? Another cum sex party, bathhouse, a pocketbook bumping threesome. Hashtag few. Can't blame him for this, huh? Can you? We copied Craig in this email. Now he knows too, you little sneak monster, and a demon emoji.
Did you also receive this same message via email?
Via email, via text. And somehow this person also knew my mother's email. And it was sent to her, along with Craig. He was CC'd in the email as well.
Okay. So at this point, do you have any reason to believe that violence could occur again?
Possibly. Just because it's kind of been like a flux in his moods. And so he has, throughout this entire process, reached out to two of my good friends. And some days he's down, some days he's upset. Some days he seems apologetic. And so he's kind of, it's for me, I have not spoken to him, but it seems like his emotions are kind of all over the radar. Recently, within the past week and a half, he called my friend and told her that I need to go ahead and sell my house and move out of the state because things won't stop. I'm not exactly sure what that meant. To me, that sounded a little scary because he's in such close proximity and I don't know his intentions on that. But it seems like, he's continually reaching out to my friends to get to me.
Okay. And what is it that you're asking the court to do as a result of all of this?
Just to extend the TPO. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a TPO if it's extended, but just to make sure that I'm protected. Because again, he has to drive by my house every day to get in and out of the neighborhood. He doesn't have to, but that's one way out. And so I just don't know if he'll show up or if we see each other in person, what his intentions will be. If he's still angry, I don't know. So I feel like just for my protection of any of that occurring, that the protective order needs to be in place.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis-Madden, you may cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Copeland. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. My name is Leah Madden. As the court indicated, I represent Mr. Stewart, and I just have some questions for you this afternoon. If I could, I kind of want to start from the last statement that you just made and then kind of work our way up to the event. Your attorney asked you if you feared any possible violence from this. And I guess I want to specify, do you have any reason to believe that there'll be possible violence from my client specifically?
There's a potential that it might get to that point. I feel like just from him going back and forth on his emotional state. Yes.
When you say that there's a potential, let me be clear. So Mr. Stewart has not contacted you since this event. Is that true?
That is true. We are blocked on all levels. So that has not, but he has tried to make contact through other people.
Okay, let me get to that in just a second. But just to be clear, so he has not called you, correct?
No.
Okay, he has not text messaged you.
No.
Okay, he's not reached out to you on social media.
Not that I'm aware of directly. No.
Okay, he's not, well, you said not that you're aware of directly. Are you aware that he's reached out to you on social media?
There's been anonymous emails, so I don't know. I'm saying that's why I'm not sure, because I don't know if they're him or if they're someone else doing it.
Okay.
That part I don't know. So.
Okay, but you don't have any evidence to indicate that he has tried to reach out to you through social media. Okay, he hasn't come by your house.
No.
Okay.
He's verbally made attempts.
When you said he verbally made attempts, I'm sorry, what do you mean specifically?
So he's told my friend Portia and another mutual friend that he wants to come to my house to talk to me face to face and to have interaction, but he feared that if he did, it will work against the case because I have cameras on my property.
Okay, well, these are hearsay statements. I'm trying to find out specifically what you have had contact. And you said you haven't had contact with him. He hasn't called you, emailed you, reached out to you on social media, or gone by your house, correct?
That is correct. Okay,
and when you say third-party contact, I just want to be clear so we can give the court some context. You all have a lot of mutual friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so presumably he's had contact with mutual friends and you've had contact with mutual friends, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but my question specifically is, has he made any type of threat or tried to get in touch with you through a mutual friend? Not discussing what happened, but trying to get in touch with you through a mutual friend.
Yes, in regards to trying to relay messages to me, would that fall under what you're asking me?
Yes, what messages are you indicating he tried to relay to you?
There was a message to one of my friends where there was a recent incident and he wrote, "Make sure you tell that nigga that," or something of that nature. And we have
When
that
was, when was this?
This was in the past week and a half.
Okay, and this was a message that you're saying that was sent from my client to you?
Correct.
Who was it sent to?
To a friend of mine.
Which friend was this?
This would have been Tevin Barnett.
Okay, and it said from Craig.
That is correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the phone initially, because that's what seemed to precipitate this event. You said you're not sure how he got into your phone, but isn't it true that you were passing around pictures at the bonfire? You had actually passed your phone around to all of the guests who were at the bonfire.
That I don't recall.
You don't recall passing your phone around, or you don't recall showing pictures?
Pictures of what specifically?
I'm not sure what was in your phone. My question is, do you recall passing your phone around?
No, it's possible that I would have been passing my phone around, but I don't recall why I was passing my phone around and what I was showing at the time.
Okay, so it is possible that you were passing your phone around.
Sure.
Okay, is it possible that you don't recall because you had been drinking that night?
I had drinks, yes.
Okay, You've been I'm sorry, I missed that.
What is your objection?
Relevant, Your Honor. Him drinking is not cited in any report, nor does it have anything to do with what we're discussing here today. It was
Judge,
Hold
I
on,
think
Ms. Davis, Madden, your response?
I think it's potentially very relevant, Judge, because it goes to his state of mind and also his perception about what occurred that night if he was under the influence of alcohol. That they have already brought up during the direct examination that he recently received a DUI. So I think it's potentially very relevant for me to be able to go into his state of mind and whether or not he can remember if he was inebriated, how many drinks he had. I think it's potentially very relevant.
All right, I'm going to overrule the objection and allow her, just as it goes to her perception of what was going on that night.
Okay, and overrule means you can answer the question. So about how many drinks do you recall having that night? And what were you drinking?
I recalled having about, by the end of the night, 4 drinks.
Okay. And
Wine,
when you say,
I started off with red wine.
okay, and did you also have tequila?
By the end of the night, my last drink was tequila. And that was also that same drink that was thrown in the argument.
Okay, well, that wasn't my question. My question was how many drinks you had and what you were drinking. Okay,
Understood.
so just to be clear, for context, the party initially started at my client's house, and then I guess you and some other guests went over to your house, and you said it's about a mile away.
Yes.
Okay, and so Portia was there, I believe you said. What was her last name?
Gregory.
Okay, and Jack or Jacqueline was there?
Correct.
Okay, and do you know her last name?
Grubbs, I believe.
Okay, and then you said your grandmother was there.
Yes.
And what's your grandmother's name?
Her name is Judith Green.
Okay. And did you notice a change in my client's demeanor when you all made it over to your house?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall him telling you that he wanted to discuss something with you and that you all could discuss it in front of everyone? Or you could go and discuss it in private?
In private.
No, my question was, do you recall him telling you that you could discuss it in front of everyone or you could discuss it in private?
Yes.
Okay. And so you elected to discuss it in private?
Correct.
Okay. And so just so I can understand the layout of the house, so I would presume that everyone was downstairs. Is your room upstairs?
That is correct.
Okay. So Mr. Copeland, you and Mr. Stewart then proceeded to go upstairs.
Yes.
Okay. And it was your testimony, and again, I want to make sure I'm not putting any words in your mouth, that I guess my client got upset with you about some things that he saw in your phone.
Correct.
Okay. And again, I want to give the court a little bit of context because we were talking about some of these social media accounts. Isn't it true that my client is like pretty well known in the Atlanta gay community?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's a podcaster?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so he posted quite a bit about you all's relationship on social media, correct?
Yes.
So you had a lot of people, strangers even, that were very invested or knew about your relationship.
That is correct.
Okay. And is it fair to say that when you all broke up, these same strangers or people who may know about your relationship or were invested in your relationship could have an opinion about your breakup?
Most definitely.
Okay. And so Mr. Stewart doesn't have control over the people who listen to the podcast or who communicate on social media. Is that not also true?
That is true.
Okay. Are you also aware that throughout the years, he's been an HIV advocate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's been particularly involved in the Atlanta gay community when it comes to matters of safe sex and advocating again for HIV.
Sure.
Okay. And isn't it also true that he was extremely upset because he saw you having unprotected sex with multiple men and he's an HIV advocate?
From the affair that I had and that he saw, yes, you can say that, but I don't know these multitude of people or multiple people that you're referencing.
Okay. Well, my question was, he was upset about things that he saw on your phone.
Correct.
And he was upset about the possible exposure of HIV.
Yes, he could be upset about that.
Okay, not he could. He was upset about the exposure
He
of
was
HIV.
upset without an explanation.
Okay. And he told you that he was upset about this. And he also made mention that he was going to let people know that you had basically been unfaithful.
I don't recall that during that conversation, no.
Okay. Well, do you recall you getting very upset and threatening him if he were to tell anybody about these illicit affairs or these men you had supposedly been with?
I got upset and threatened him?
Yes.
No.
Do you recall that? You don't recall any of that?
No.
Okay.
Not-
You don't recall, do you recall a previous incident where you were drinking and it ended with you punching your arm through a window?
Yes, I remember that, but I'm confused of how this pertains to this case.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because you've had a prior incident where you've been upset and you've gotten violent before. Is that not true?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
Relevance, Your Honor, and it's not even admissible unless she's clearly using this to prove that his character here is the same as his character in that instance, and we have no idea what instance she's speaking of.
Okay, Miss Davis Madden.
Obviously, he's aware of the particular incident because he acknowledged it. It's an incident that involved alcohol and it involved violence. And I think it is potentially relevant, Judge. I think it goes to his state of mind, not necessarily his character, but how he responded in that situation versus how he could have potentially responded in this situation.
Okay, I'm gonna overrule as to that, the objection as to that specific question. But again, what I remind parties is someone's bad act on one date does not mean that we're looking at whether the respondent at this point has committed an act against the petitioner. So I'll let you ask that question. But we're not going to go too far down the line of the history of alcohol and that sort of thing. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Now I'm trying to remember exactly what specific question I asked after all of that. There has the time that we were speaking of that you acknowledged where you were drinking in the past and it resulted in some violence. My client knew you at that time, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And I want to go back to your account when you indicated that my client just started, I guess, assaulting you and you didn't do anything. You just sat there and let him hit you. And then you said you finally threw a drink at his face.
Correct.
Okay. So it's your contention that you didn't strike my client or hit my client?
Prior to the drink throwing, no.
Okay. So it's your contention that my client was the initial aggressor?
That is correct.
Okay. But isn't it true that you were upset about the allegations he was making against you and you, in fact, were the aggressor?
In regards to being emotionally upset, that makes me an aggressor. Sorry, clarify.
Isn't it true that you were upset because my client threatened to expose you? Like we've just seen these messages you said you were concerned about on social media and concerned about embarrassment and everything
There
else.
was
And
no-
isn't it true? Can I finish my question? Isn't it true that you were in fact the aggressor in this incident?
No.
Okay. Let's be clear. Only you and my client were actually in the room at this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so these other witnesses as to who would have started this physical altercation, no one can speak to that but you and Mr. Stewart, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And with respect to this injury to your toe, you indicated that you were kicking the door?
Correct.
Okay. And you also indicated, and again, I want to go through that just a little bit, that I guess Jacqueline and Portia came upstairs to see what was going on, to see what the commotion was about. And at that point, they wanted to de-escalate the situation, and my client, Mr. Stewart, was leaving the house, correct?
He went downstairs. I don't know his intentions of once going down the stairs.
Okay, well, let me say this. He left the room in an attempt to de-escalate the situation. He left the room, whether he left the house or whether he just went downstairs, he left the room to de-escalate the situation.
Correct.
Okay, but isn't it true that both Jacqueline and Portia were blocking the stairway, trying to prevent you from going downstairs after my client?
That is correct.
Okay, And instead of you staying upstairs, in fact, you sideswiped them and jumped over your railing in an attempt to get to my client.
That is correct.
Okay, so someone who's in fear of their safety, who claims that you were just assaulted in a bedroom, when he's leaving to de-escalate the situation, you then basically move two women out of the way, jump over a railing, and you want this court to believe that you were just going down to do what? To
To
speak to him?
rectify the situation to see if we could have even a further conversation.
Why would you want to rectify a situation with someone who just assaulted you that you claim you were in fear of your safety of?
Well, I don't know if you've ever been in love, but sometimes you do things that don't necessarily make sense. And I'm not a fighter, nor have I ever been in a fight, nor have I ever struck someone. So that is not even in my nature until this night.
Okay,
So go ahead.
so let me say this. Is it fair to say that at that point you weren't in fear of your safety when you went after him?
Yes and no, but I was at that time willing to risk to even have a conversation with him.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm a little bit confused. Either yes, you were in fear of your safety, or no, you weren't in fear of your safety. So which one was it? You went after him, you jumped over the railing. And is that not when in fact you injured your toe when you jumped over the railing?
Not at all. Because specifically when I jumped over, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I go forward.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. You can answer.
Specifically, I recall once I jumped the railing, I landed in the middle of my foot specifically. I know that for sure. And I know, so it could not have happened during that time.
Okay, so you said that you jumped over the railing and landed in the middle of your foot, and you
The edge of the
yourself-
stair is where my feet landed. So that's, my toe had no contact to the stair.
Okay, and you said that you caused the injury, I guess, to yourself by kicking the door.
Correct, trying to get free.
Okay, and once you got free and my client left the room again, you ran after him.
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you because there's two matters that are pending. This matter that's pending right now, and then also you have taken out a warrant application. The hearing is going to be on that sometime in February, correct?
Correct. I think February 13th to be exact.
Okay. And do you recall filling out the criminal arrest warrant petition? And the only thing that you mentioned in that petition was having a scratch to the forearm.
No, that was from the initial police report that was filed. There was more information given for that warrant. I don't know why they didn't put that further in there, but that's all they gathered from the police report. And that's when I called the cops right after the incident and they arrived at my residence.
Okay, and I want to talk about that just a little bit. So when the police arrived at your residence, they took a report and said that the only thing that they noticed was a scratch to your forearm?
To my forearm, and they were aware of the toe. And so they told me to contact
Objection,
them.
Your Honor. We have the police report. We can use the best evidence in this versus us trying to testify on the warrant application that we don't have. That's
Okay.
being
Response?
Well, Judge, I'm just asking him to testify as to what he told the police. That's what I'm trying to get to.
So I
about
think
this
you can
case.
ask that. At this point, I'm not sure that the police report has been tendered or admitted. Is that right?
No, Judge.
Okay, so you can ask him what he told the police. Obviously, if you start getting into what other people have said, we're getting back into hearsay, but you can ask him what he told the police.
Okay, thank you, Judge. And again, I'm not interested in necessarily what anyone told you, but I'm interested in specifically what you told the police regarding your injuries that night.
Yes, so they observed me, they saw the scratches on my arm, and then I told them there was injury to my toe. Her response during that time was, if it is broken, then we can escalate this matter.
Okay, and I think it's already been established, but just to be clear, you all don't share any property together, correct?
No property, no.
Okay, you don't have any businesses with one another?
No,
Okay, you don't have any reason to communicate as far as any children or any family members that you all share?
no. The only thing that we had shared was a bank account.
Okay. Now, are you aware that your mother has contacted my client multiple times and has also reached out to my client's mother since this incident purportedly occurred?
I was made aware of one successful attempt in the past week and a half.
Okay, and did you speak to your mom about that?
It was after the fact. She just told me that she had called.
Judge, if I can, just a second, I just want to make sure. Go over my notes. I don't have anything else.
That's fine.
Now, I want to ask about any injuries you observed to my client. What do you recall doing to him physically?
I recall fighting back while I was upstairs in the chokehold, trying to release myself, as well as downstairs with the vacuum incident. I do know I got hold of a piece of the vacuum cleaner and started fighting back against him with that piece of vacuum.
Okay, and so just to be clear, when you ran after my client, when you hopped the railing to go down behind him, is your testimony that you were just wanting to talk to him?
Correct.
Okay, isn't it not true that you actually went to assault my client and he had to defend himself?
No.
Do you have a friend named Scott?
Yes.
Okay, and what's Scott's full name?
Scott. I want to say Thomas, but I don't. Bogan. I'm so sorry. Bogan. Scott Bogan.
Okay, and do you recall reaching out to Scott and telling him that you had a letter that you wrote to my client that you wanted to give to him?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
and
yes, go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's okay. You go ahead if you need to expound.
No, so yes, I initially said I had wrote a letter to him for me, and I was questioning on if it should be sent or if it should not be sent to at least somehow again rectify this situation for both of us.
Okay, and Scott is Mr. Stewart's friend, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you've actually reached out to Mr. Stewart's friend since this incident to try to give letters, to try to give clothes. Didn't you pass some underwear, some other items to friends?
With Scott, the relationship, Scott opened up his arms to me and said during this time, because he saw I was in an emotional state, he said, I am here, I'm a shoulder to cry on, and was very comforting. And he even took me to the hospital during this time. And so I found confidence in him in discussions. And yes, there were some items that were still in my house that belonged to Craig, and I gave them, I'm not disrespectful to belongings, so I gave those items to Scott to give to Craig.
3 pair of underwear specifically?
Mm-hmm. And
Okay, you thought it was that important that he received those underwear?
those were his belongings.
And prior to this incident, there had been no acts of physical violence between you all, correct?
You said prior to that?
Yes.
Correct. No physical violence or contact.
Okay. And since this incident, there's been no acts of physical violence or contact, correct?
Not thus far, no.
There have been no threats of physical violence or contact.
Not that I am aware of.
Okay. When you say not that you're aware of, because one of the things, and I apologize, I don't know the exhibit number that was introduced. It looked like it was a social media post on Instagram. And again, I think we've already established that my client is somewhat of a public figure and known throughout the Atlanta community, particularly in the Atlanta gay community. So that did not come from my client, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
But I will
I
say it happened hours after him finding out information. So I don't know how that has to do with anything, but
information, what are you referring to when you received the DUI?
yes, the DUI. It was a matter of hours after that.
Okay, but you all do have mutual friends, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I think one you just referred to, Scott, is a mutual friend. Did you notify him of the DUI?
Yes, because he helped me out in the situation.
Did you notify anybody else of the DUI?
My mother and my father.
Okay, so it could have been other people that were aware of this incident, not necessarily my client. What about Tevin?
No,
Okay.
not during this time. that those messages were sent. He knew later on.
And I think you also indicated that you all are blocked on everything. So on social media, on phone messages. So my client really doesn't have any way to get in touch with you.
Not directly, no, unless via
Okay.
email, possibly.
Okay, but he hasn't emailed you. We've already established that.
Correct.
And we have already established that he has not been to your house or tried to come to your house or tried to contact you since this incident.
Well, he's contacted friends to try to come to my house.
Okay, let me just clarify that just a little bit, because you're saying that he contacted friends. You all have mutual friends again, correct?
Correct.
All right, so he's able to contact mutual friends, you're able to contact mutual friends. But I guess, and this is what I was trying to clarify, my client has not, through a third party or through any of his mutual friends, tried to come to your house, correct?
Physically, yes, he tried to come to my house. He begged my friend to see if he could come here so we could talk.
When
So
was this?
this would have been within the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Okay, do you have any documentation or any
We have a
emails, any
witness.
text messages?
We have a witness available.
Okay, and who is the witness?
Portia Gregory.
Okay, all right, I'll just address that with Ms. Gregory. Okay, that's all that I have. Thank you.
All right, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly. I want to go back to the moment when you were upstairs in the bedroom, kicking the door. You said that you were screaming what at that moment?
For someone to call the police and for help.
Did anyone come?
Once I started kicking the door, yes.
Okay, and when they came in, what did they see?
They saw Craig having me in the chokehold, pulling me by my hair.
Okay, at
A
no
leg
point,
lock. Sorry, if I said a choke, a leg lock. Two different things.
at any point, did they see you engaging in any type of leg lock or headlock with him?
No,
Did they see you assault him?
no.
Did they see you approach him? in that-
Objection, Your Honor. She's asking about what other parties have seen. They can testify as to that. I think she needs to ask him about what he specifically observed, not what he thought someone else may have observed.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, your response?
I can go to the next question, no problem.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection as to speculation as to what someone else observed. He can testify who's in the room, but
Okay. And when you left the room, you said that you went down to do what?
To somehow still rectify the situation, because again, no conversation truly happened about what was going on and what he found. And so during that time, I've never been in the fight, so yes, I'm flustered, but at the same time, I still felt compelled to tell or explain what had happened.
And had
Again,
he left
some-
at that point?
No, he was, when I got downstairs, he was still standing in my kitchenette.
Is your kitchenette close to the door?
I would say it's about 20 feet from the front door.
Okay, so instead of going into the kitchen, could he have just gone out the door?
That is correct.
And when you encountered him in the kitchen, what did he say?
He turned around and said, "What the fuck are you about to do?"
And at that point, did what?
That's when he grabbed I had a Dyson handheld vacuum cleaner. It's not like the one that you plug in, but it's one like the portable ones that hooks into the wall.
And at that point, he did what with the vacuum?
Charged me and attacked me with the vacuum.
Okay, so did you in that moment fear for your life?
I did. I regretted coming down the stairs, but yes.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
all right, any recross?
Just very briefly, Your Honor, just about that last exchange. Okay, you testified that my client said, "What the fuck are you about to do?" And this is when you ran downstairs after him aggressively. Is that not true?
Define aggressively. Yes, I did go over the railing, and yes, I came downstairs, but I did not
You-
charge.
Okay, I would define aggressively as you pushing past two women to jump over a railing to go downstairs, and my client is heading out the door, and then he says, "You, what the fuck are you about to do?"
Objection, Your Honor. That's not in the testimony at all.
I think the question is, rather than testifying what you would define aggression as, I will sustain that objection. You can ask the question, re-ask the question in a manner about would he consider that aggression, or however you want to rephrase it.
So when my client said, "What the fuck are you about to do?" where were you in relationship to him? About how far away? Distance-wise?
During this time, I would say I was at least 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet away. I was at the stairs. So there's the stairs, and then I do have a wine cabinet. So they're about 8 to 10 feet apart.
Okay, and you said that you're about 8 to 10 feet apart. He looks at you and says, "What the fuck are you about to do?" And what do you do in response?
At that time, I didn't do anything until I was attacked with the vacuum.
Okay. All right. Well, where was your grandmother at this time? You said she was still downstairs, correct?
No, I remember I told you that she slowly got upstairs. She took longer than Portia and Jack. So at this time, she was still upstairs and could not rush down fast enough like, again, Portia and Jack could.
Okay. So conveniently, when all of the altercations are happening, the only people around are you and Mr. Stewart. right.
Well, Portia did witness what happened downstairs.
Is this when she ran after you?
Is when Portia ran after me? Yeah.
You know, that's
This is
okay.
From the top of the steps, she was able to see what happened.
Okay. I don't know that you can answer that or not. I won't ask you to speculate. If I have questions, I'll direct those at Portia. That's all that I have. Thank you.